Hello and welcome. This is a special broadcast coming to you live from Tianjin in China, beautiful port city close to Beijing. And we've wrapped things up here as far as the SCO summit is concerned. I'm Gauri Dwivedi, and over the course of the next 30 minutes, we decode for you the SCO summit and the Global South Flex for New Delhi, the big impact this is going to have as far as India's push in terms of countering Donald Trump's tariffs and why this is likely to haunt Donald Trump.
In a striking diplomatic moment, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Chinese President Xi Jinping stood together in Tianjin. Representing over 3 billion people, or 40% of the global population, the trio exchanged smiles and polite gestures, rekindling attention on the long quiet Russia-India-China Troika. Prime Minister Modi posted exchanging perspectives with President Putin and President Xi during the SCO summit. The picture spoke volumes. It was a visual alignment of three of Asia's biggest powers at a time of global uncertainty. Speaking at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's plenary, President Xi Jinping called for fairness and multilateralism. He warned against what he described as bullying behavior and Cold War mindsets. He urged member states to build a friendly network and deepen regional trust, with Modi and Putin seated right beside him.
和伙伴要尊重彼此差异，保持战略沟通。
Later at the official reception, Modi was warmly welcomed by Xi and First Lady Peng Liyuan. A group photograph followed, a symbolic moment showing strategic proximity even amid complex equations. But beyond symbolism, substance followed. Modi met President Putin for a high-stakes bilateral. The discussion conveyed energy, defense, and the Ukraine conflict, among other important issues. From their car ride together to the almost hour-long meeting, the impactful visuals underline the ever-growing India-Russia partnership.
कठिन से कठिन परिस्थितियों में भी भारत और रूस हमेशा कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर चले हैं। हमारा करीबी सहयोग न केवल दोनों देशों के लोगों के लिए बल्कि वैश्विक शांति, स्थिरता और समृद्धि के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है।
Modi also invited Xi to the 2026 BRICS summit in India, an invitation Xi accepted, pledging China's support.
हमारे संबंधों को एक सकारात्मक दिशा मिली। परस्पर विश्वास, सम्मान और संवेदनशीलता के आधार पर हम अपने संबंधों को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध हैं।
Symbolic reunions and strategic recalibrations on the Troika became the focal point of the Tianjin SCO summit. And what's more, the summit saw India at the heart of regional diplomacy, engaging East and West, firm on its footing and loud in its call for a balanced world order.
Other big headline from Tianjin in China is the bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Both spoke on trade ties and defense cooperation. Apart from that, there was a discussion on the Ukraine crisis. Prime Minister emphasized for peace in Ukraine and said that larger peace and the end of war was in interest of larger humanity.
In a bold display of strength and strategic unity, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Putin met on the sidelines of the SCO summit for a high-stakes bilateral meet. Top of the agenda, reinforcing India-Russia ties just as the US ramps up pressure. Washington has slapped an additional 25% tariff on Indian purchases of Russian oil. President Trump has accused India of funding Russia's war in Ukraine, and last week hit back with 50% tariffs on Indian exports, the highest in Asia. But India is standing its ground and sending a clear message. New Delhi will prioritize its own interests, not Washington's politics. And while deepening ties with Moscow, Prime Minister Modi didn't sidestep the war. He urged an end to the Ukraine conflict, saying it's humanity's call to restore peace. Ahead of his meet with Putin, Prime Minister Modi also spoke with Ukrainian President Zelensky, reaffirming India's support for a peaceful resolution to the war. From a symbolic car ride to nearly an hour of talks, the optics were powerful and the intent unmistakable. At a time when the US is scrutinizing India-Russia ties, the message is clear: this partnership isn't going anywhere.
आपसे मिलकर बहुत खुशी हो रही है और मैं हमेशा अनुभव करता हूं कि आपको मिलना मतलब एक यादगार मीटिंग भी होती है। कठिन से कठिन परिस्थितियों में भी भारत और रूस हमेशा कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर चले हैं। हमारा करीबी सहयोग न केवल दोनों देशों के लोगों के लिए बल्कि वैश्विक शांति, स्थिरता और समृद्धि के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है।
As the world watched, diplomacy, defiance, and a deepening bond were all on full display in Tianjin. Samia Afsar, NDTV World.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President were captured in the same car traveling before their bilateral meeting in Tianjin in China. Of course, the request came from President Putin to travel in the car in Russia's Taurus and then go for the bilateral meeting. Here is more.
ये दोस्ती हम नहीं छोड़ेंगे. If the Sholay cult song had to be reimagined in the world of geopolitics, it would fit perfectly on this picture of PM Modi and the Russian president. The two rode together in a made-in-Russia Taurus sedan for the bilateral talks on the sidelines of the 25th SCO summit. It was Vladimir Putin who wanted to travel with PM Modi to the bilateral meeting venue, the Ritz-Carlton Hotel that was at some distance from the summit venue. Sources tell NDTV that the Russian president waited for about 10 minutes so that the Prime Minister could join him in the car. It was a nice 45-minute drive where the two leaders discussed various issues. The Prime Minister in fact posted on X about his drive with Vladimir Putin, saying that the conversations with the Russian president are always insightful. A rare, symbolic ride, one that signaled warmth, trust, and a partnership that has endured for decades. For India and Russia, it wasn't just a drive through Tianjin. It was the two countries navigating tariff turbulence and much more. The Putin-Modi carpool to the bilateral meeting at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Tianjin has a clear message. Under pressure from Trump and his administration, it was an assertion from both India and Russia that they will continue their partnership, being each other's ride or die for the time to come.
At the SCO summit, the major power dynamics played out between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi as well as President Putin in the meetings that took place between the two and in terms of the bilaterals. Meanwhile, Pakistan Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif was visibly out of place, diplomatically sidelined, and the pariah state did not expect how things went by as far as the SCO summit is concerned. This report tells you more about Pakistan's state of affairs and why it's beginning to be irrelevant, even at a forum where it was invited by its friend-in-chief, China. Take a look.
It was a picture that said it all. Prime Minister Modi, President Putin, and President Xi Jinping standing front and center at the SCO summit in Tianjin. Smiles, handshakes, conversations. The body language was clear. India, Russia, and China setting the stone on the global stage. And somewhere on the side of that very frame, Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, present but peripheral. At the official banquet, hosted by President Xi and First Lady Peng Liyuan, Sharif was part of the customary SCO family photo. Both Modi and Sharif stood in the front row, but with a symbolic gap of several liters between them. And while Modi engaged in visible, relaxed conversations with Putin and Xi, Shehbaz Sharif walked past unacknowledged. A video clip of Modi, Xi, and Putin sharing a light-hearted moment as Sharif walks by in the background has gone viral, capturing the diplomatic pecking order in a single frame. Then came the moment that drew ridicule. After the formal photo, Sharif was seen rushing, almost jogging, to shake Putin's hand. The move, caught on camera, sparked a wave of online trolling, with netizens terming it not only desperate, but also embarrassing. That's not all. Observers were quick to draw parallels with the 2022 SCO summit. That's where Sharif struggled with translation headphones in front of Putin, asking, "Can somebody hear me?" and drawing a chuckle from the Russian leader. Meanwhile, Modi's meeting with Xi was sharp and strategic. He raised the issue of cross-border terrorism, calling it a shared threat to both India and China. Beijing reportedly backed India's concern not only verbally but also in the joint declaration, sending a strong signal to Islamabad. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri confirmed China's understanding and cooperation, further isolating Pakistan on a core issue. At this year's SCO, India continues to lead with clarity, composure, and command. As for pariah Pakistan's Shehbaz Sharif, well, he appeared to be a guest without a chair, present but hardly noticed.
First, on the India-China ties, please tell me how significant are the India-China ties right now? There is an effort to reset the ties between India and China, especially after the SCO meeting here. So, how would this cooperation go forward?
Well, first of all, let me remember that both India and China are very, very large countries. We both have more than 1.4 billion people, and we are all like improving economies, and we all have very fast economic growth. So the relationship between China and India, of course, is very important. And remember, this year marks the 75th anniversary of the diplomatic relationship between China and India. And speaking of the ties, I think it's improving because Prime Minister Modi's attendance of this SCO summit in Tianjin has already spoken a lot because, as you mentioned, that the US has imposed tariffs in India. And remember that China has already been involved in this tariff war back in 2018 with the US. And this year, it came again. But let's just say this. China is never afraid of the tariffs, and whenever the U.S. has imposed tariffs on us, we just impose the retaliatory tariffs on them. Do we want that? No, but we are not afraid of that. And I think right now, from my understanding, India might want to have the same standing as China had before. So I think Prime Minister Modi came to seek for more collaboration with China.
That's all we have for you from the special coverage of NDTV from the SCO summit here in Tianjin in China. Stay tuned to more news and updates from across the globe for NDTV. See you back in India.